And welcome back to Lawfully Chaotic. We have a very special guest tonight. We have with us Matthew Mercer from Critical.
Oh my gosh, Matt!
Sorry, that's next week. We have with us
where is he?
Brian Gomiz, the bearded nerd, joining us tonight.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you for joining us, Brian. Good to have you on.
Thanks for
welcome
having
to
me.
Season 2, Episode 3. Oh, no, this is Episode 4. I screwed up the overlay. Going to be a little Easter egg in the hello, Uncle Pappy. You do win for being here first. You win a RPG and Company T-shirt, pre-worn but washed and clean.
Pre-worn but washed.
It'll be a little Easter egg. Episode 4 is labeled as Episode 3. It'll be like the greetings, Shunjin. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, thank you for joining us tonight or watching after the fact. We're going to be talking about world building tonight and content creation with Brian, especially as it pertains to designing within the D&D space or the more agnostic, system agnostic space, given what's been going on lately with our friends at Wizards of the Coast.
What has been going on? I don't know. What are you talking about?
Nothing. Just a lot of free giveaways and love.
Of course.
Before we start, Jason, I'm going to switch overlays because we're covering your.
What? I can't see what you're saying.
Exactly. There we go. Boom. Okay. Jason, storyteller at TTRPG Academy. What do you got to share with us? You got any announcements?
Well, I am finally bringing my home world to Tuesday nights. That will be kicking off Zero session Tuesday night, 7:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or as Jillian says in Family Guy, specific time. And other than that, it's just we have over at TTRPG Academy, we have Pike's Promise on Monday nights. We're going to have our new custom home world on Tuesday nights. We have the Undermountain, the Grain Lands. We have Debtor's Gambit, and we have Fool's Errand all over the weekend. So it's a busy schedule for sure.
So how many clones of you are there now?
None, because I am half of a kind.
Half of a kind. Fantastic. Sharon, what announcements you have for us?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. I don't really have anything to report other than I am on Saturdays on the Graying Lands campaign. Things are really starting to heat up, so come check us out.
Awesome. Brian, thank you for joining us tonight. Awesome having you on the show again. You got anything you want to share? Any announcements on what's going on in your world?
Man, so there's a lot. We're building up our Discord server to actually be more kind of just community focused, where a lot of folks, especially post OGL fiasco, we're curious about learning other TTRPGs. And it's really funny because we've talked about this. There are so many other RPGs or TTRPGs out there, and it's really sad that only one has gotten the spotlight. Now, mind you, this is coming from the guy who played D&D all his life and loves D&D. But I also, on the topic of being a world builder, I feel that I've become a better game master, dungeon master, and world builder when I play other TTRPGs. So we're playing a lot of different stuff on our Discord. We actually have a live, basically 24/7 text-based RP channel where we go in and we role play with each other and we have fun, all set in my homebrew world. And then a couple of things that are coming down the pipeline. We have some cool little digital books that are coming out soon this year, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be things you can plug and play into your world. So yeah, I'm just producing more, doing a lot more of that.
Awesome. Very awesome. Very cool. Very cool. That RP in Discord is really kind of a neat idea.
What do you got going on, Brian?
As for me, okay, so I know I've been threatening. I can't even think to myself correctly. I know I've been threatening for a while now to start up a streamed campaign, and I think it is finally time. Both Jason and Sharon will be joining me, and a couple others that I would like to reach out to. And we are going to do probably every third week, we will replace tonight's show with a streamed game. Probably same time, 8 o'clock, but for 3 hours. Yes, I know we will be competing with Critical Role, but I'm sure they will get over their loss of
like 8 people
audience. Yeah. So I'm not too worried about them. So
I'm just excited that Brian. I've been playing since I was 9 years old, so I'm going on 42 years of playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever played in a campaign 4 times.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
As a player,
you're the forever GM, huh?
Yeah, just forever.
I'm excited to have you play because of that, just to see how shitty.
I don't know, Brian. You keep using that rule incorrectly. I don't know why you do that. That's just, I don't care how cool you think you are.
So anyway, so I am going to start getting everybody together. I got to recruit a couple more players, but that will be happening sooner than later. I can assure you. So, other than that, Sharon, what do we got? Rules lawyer.
Rules lawyer inbound.
Yeah, that's Paul, Jeff. Will not be on it.
Chatbot, what should I do? Brian is making me roll dice. I don't know what they do.
Actually, Colin, you were one of the other players I was going to hit up to play. So, anyway, and I'm not joking about that, but we'll talk about that offline. So anyway, Sharon, what are we talking about tonight?
Hey, everybody. Our special guest tonight is the Bearded Nerd. We're going to be talking about all things fun and cool on his side of the table. So, Brian, what exactly do you do? And where are you from?
Oh,
we're saying howdy.
Crisis now. No, I'm kidding.
Who am I?
Where am I from? No. So my name is Brian. I born and raised in South Florida or in the Miami area, and grew up there for about 10, 12 years or so until I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And during that time, I've always been a huge purveyor of fantasy. My dad and my mom were really supportive of just me reading and kind of just diving deep into books that I would enjoy. So I remember picking up my first comic book in a Rite Aid, just because at where I grew up, there weren't really comic book shops or game stores. It was few. Yep. It's because, again, I grew up in a place called Hialeah, Florida. So for those who don't know, that's my parents being Cuban and being refugees, we grew up in a very Cuban heavy location. So game stores weren't a thing. Comic book shops weren't really a thing from a cultural perspective. Not that it wasn't supported, but it just wasn't a thing. I really saw that, like my dad, I remember he used to read The Hobbit to us and The Lord of the Rings later on as kids.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was legit. I mean, I don't know if I can say this right now, but my dad used to, back in the 70s, as he says, he used to read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, being influenced, let's just say. And he took that he was just like he tried that Shire tobacco, if you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, hey mom, hey dad, I don't mean no, but I was just really enveloped by fantasy, and I love storytelling, and I love building worlds, and I love taking my action figures or my little GI Joes or whatever I had and creating battlefields and creating worlds behind it to explain why there's a battle here. So there was that. And then when I moved to Charlotte, I found some really awesome friends, the Tomlinson brothers. Shout out to you guys, because we used to play Dark Tower together. We used to play
Dark Tower.
Oh, it was. We used to play everything imaginable. Then we played. What's going on, punk rock Jenny?
Thank you
We
for joining us.
Yeah. I was gonna say. We actually talked about in our episode of the podcast too, where I was just enveloped by fantasy at a young age, and then being into metal music and playing drums and playing metal, like it was very normal to just be like, oh hey, when are we gonna go play D&D? And oh, let's not tell people because we just want to keep that to ourselves. And at the time, ironically, the people who would try to bully us, they were met with opposition. Like we were the nerds that were like, okay, I guess we're starting something today. It's one of the like I think my mom and dad got more upset that I was finding myself in those situations versus the material itself. But my dad also raised me like, defend yourself. I don't care.
Yeah.
And again, being Cuban, like we play baseball or we box. That's all we do. Like, so culturally, my dad was like, all right, box. So I got into a lot of like scuffles. Let's just say that.
Battles, encounters.
Barbarian warm up,
Yeah, I mean, it was like okay, roll initiative IRL.
Yeah.
Did you actually throw dice at these kids?
No, I wish I should have used those D4s as like a cow.
Really rolling to attack.
Yeah, like
Lightning bolt.
Or like the cloth wrapped, resin dipped, and then you dip them in D4s, like on what was that, Bloodsport or something?
Heck yeah. And the thing is, like, the worst part about it is like all the metalheads were also jocks of some sort because we played sports and we just loved music. So it was like, yeah, it really is the underground fighting pits.
My Wednesday night group's favorite thing. What do you got? You have one night in this town. What do? We look for a fight pit.
Hey, you know what? There's one somewhere and probably run by some organization. But no, I mean, I literally just was enveloped in fantasy. I loved the Lord of the Rings. I loved, Dragonlance. I love the stories that they would tell. And I have to attribute a major portion of it too to my brother. Being my older brother, he was just always like, not only was he looking out and it was kind of like very protective, but he also got into it. So like I remember we would play like, we'd have like jam sessions where we were playing like Korn and then Black Sabbath, and then all of us are playing D&D with the Tomlinson brothers. So we would play for like 12 hours, and that was just, and my parents would say like, you guys are reading, playing together, having fun. Why not? And plus, like, they were very religious, and they still are. And I remember they used to, like, our pastor of our church, our parish, he was very encouraging of it. He was an old school guy from Boston, from Quincy, Mass. And he would just say, you know what, if these kids are having fun, why not? What am I to, like, this is an awesome thing, and it's getting people together. And he actually, I remember he used to tell the, I guess, I don't want to say in that mean of a way, but he would tell the individuals within the church that were against it. And he would just line out like why it's so positive. Same thing with like, why is Harry Potter, all this, everything. He would just,
heck yeah.
He would just go at it. And again, this guy, and
church sanctioned satanic panic.
Well, and that's the thing about, and actually funny that you bring that up. He actually pulled up in like back when the internet was still like, you had to have like connections to your Ethernet and whatnot. He brought up the Department of Justice's definition of what the satanic panic was, according to the Department of Justice. And he was like, all these kids are not doing what the Department of Justice says. So get out of here. Like, he was really good about that.
Wow.
Great man.
That's very interesting.
And that's where like I was blessed and very fortunate to have a positive experience about what's going about like the satanic panic. Like a lot of, yes, it is way better.
You'll keep your teeth longer.
I mean, if I kept fighting, probably not. But no, I did take a break when my because my grandma was a huge supporter and she was a huge influence on my life. So when she passed away, I took a break because I was just like just going through it emotionally, when and kind of lived a little bit in the outside world. And around 3.5, I came back around that time, and then Pathfinder came out, and I was like, I like this. And fourth edition, I was like, I don't like this. This is
We don't talk about fourth edition.
we don't talk about oh no. Okay. All right, I watch all these Disney movies now because my daughter, and she loves it, so now I sing them. But then I started playing fifth edition, and fifth edition was awesome. I remember all the Unearthed Arcana stuff in 2014 and was like, this is legit. The Grave Domain, whoa. And I was playing Curse of Strahd, and I was like, this is perfect for Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing, long about way. I've been playing for a very long time. I've been building that world ever since because I was the forever DM, so I would always run the games, and I would we would play in them. And really, this campaign that we are currently in has been going on for 7 years now. Players coming in and out, and actually, hence the text-based RP is open to the public. And the major decision behind that was D&D tabletop games, but storytelling games are for the public. They are not supposed
As
to.
they should.
They're not supposed to be behind a paywall. So with that logic, anyone can RP in the world. You create a character, follow the guidelines of the Discord server because we don't want creeps, and just play and have fun and be respectful. And that's what I do.
Is that part of your table
Homebrew?
game?
Yep.
So it's the same campaign.
Same campaign. I've had 3-4 groups coming in and out. I have one in-person group. I have people online that play. We have people that are in the play test also. So we're play testing new subclasses, new classes, races. We're play testing a lot of different things right now within our Discord, but that's also part of the world because if they want to play and if they want to just participate, they're more than welcome to. But in addition to that, we actually have a monthly battle royale that we're starting, which is also going to be in the world.
What?
So if you like, this is my meth.
I mean, you're hitting it hard, Brian.
I had that idea also of like basically like a fight pit player PvP. Did we talk about that? We may have to readdress that topic.
We should, because this is the thing.
I actually bought a URL to brand that. I don't want to share it because I haven't branded it. But you and I can talk about that offline. Seriously.
No, and this is the thing. Like, in my game, I pretty much have the rule of cool mixed with like the rule of consent. And a great dungeon master friend of mine, Ray, aka Got DM on Instagram, he fought. I remember him explaining it way better than I could, because I would always say, okay, guys, like, let's not be jerks. But if you want to do PvP, you guys have to agree to it. Yeah. But he came out with it. He said it way better than I could, facilitate. And essentially what he said was, it's not fun if the other person's constantly stealing from the other character. So everything has to be consent based, and everything has to be that, okay, everyone's cool with this, go ahead and do it.
Are you talking about just allowing PvP in your campaign, or are you talking about a separate sandbox where you could just fight and it has no consequence on your character or his belongings?
So there's both. In my game, I kind of took it to, like, I don't know what. When I was mentioning Ray, I've been playing his world for like 4 or 5 years now. But what I basically do. In my world, we have PvP that's in game. Like, you can essentially fight this person. Like, let's say, because I don't have a strict BBEG at the moment. That BBEG has not been revealed just yet. Secret.
Yes. Do tell.
Basically, he is being awakened by a cult, and the party has not figured it out yet. One of the parties, so one party has, the other party has not. And I say that because each party can basically be the BBG for one another. The reason I say that, in my world, everything's subjective for the most part. Most everything's subjective. So the knight who fights, Oath of the Crown, who fights for the king because the king provides for the country and also the poor town this knight is from.
Mhm.
If another party goes in and, let's just say, deposes of said king, well, now the flow of the flow of support, food, anything of that nature is gone, and now that town gets raided by some group. That knight's family, so let's say they're a paladin, is wiped out. Oath of revenge is, that oath switches to
Mhm.
crown to revenge.
Mhm.
Now that party that caused that essentially is their BBEG. So I like using that perspective in
That's
story.
cool.
Did you? Any of you guys ever play World of Warcraft?
Yes.
Do you remember Underpants?
Tiny bit.
Yeah.
Who?
You remember Underpants?
Yeah.
So there was. I
What?
fucking hated PvP in World of Warcraft because I always get my ass handed to me.
Oh, that's why I never did PvP.
And there was a world famous guy whose name was Underpants, and he would run around in nothing but underpants, but he was super high powered, and he would just run around all the servers ganking the shit out of people. And it was so fucking annoying.
To the point where that's why South Park made fun of it. They made fun of it.
Yeah.
Really?
This
Yeah.
player that's all he did is go around ganking people
Just
and,
watch-
and then doing the underpants dance on their corpse. It was
Just watch the episode "Make Love Not Warcraft" and you'll see why. It's fantastic.
I want to be that guy for D&D.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing, though. Like for me, that's part of world building. World building is laying the foundation for your players to play in. There needs to be you need to ask the question why. Why is it this? Why is the world like this? And I think that's really important. Why do I have my players kind of go at each other or have this kind of subjective interpretation of the world? Well, because our world is like that. There is objective truth, but the way we look at that objective truth can be subjective. So I like to implement that in my world, and I think it's essential almost.
So let's talk about, Sharon, you had some notes that you wanted to go over. Let's talk specifically about how we approach world building. What did you have written down, Sharon? I don't have them in front of me.
Well, I'm actually curious. What inspired you to create this campaign? This ever fluid, ever evolving campaign that you've had for the past 7 years, and now are building onto that by doing PvP combat.
Because no one provided it. Modules never provided me I feel like Galactus, where he was never satisfied. I hunger. Like nothing can satiate me. That's how I felt. Modules never satiated. And they never brought that satisfaction. It was like, going to a fast food restaurant and gorging on food, and you feel full for the moment, but then you don't really feel satisfied, unlike having name it like a steak or something. You don't, at least for me, like having a steak with whatever sides and a glass of red wine, like that for me is like the most satiating and fulfilling thing ever. And then obviously a cigar afterward, because that's me. But that's what fulfills me. That's what brings me joy. Same thing with D&D. All the modules out there, although well written, right? Mm-hmm. Curse of Strahd is probably one of the best written modules for D&D, in my opinion. I love the goth horror aspect. Now that it's not extremely goth horror, but for D&D, it's goth horror, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's great, like Call of Cthulhu has, and Brian, we talked about this.
Yes.
Call of Cthulhu is amazing when it comes to the lore. Dude was an asshole, but it is what it is. So I think that for me, I just was never satisfied with what was written. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna do it myself. And being inspired by the Lord of the Rings and Dragonlance, and hell, being inspired by He-Man and Thundercats and all the quintessential sci-fi and fantasy and Star Wars. I mean, that's science fantasy. Some of the best epic, and Dune. Another great
Oh
book,
yeah.
just inspired by amazing storytellers, made me want to be one.
So, in regard to all the stuff with the OGL and whatnot, I know that when I create content, it's very within the D&D space.
Sure.
And for me, I'll admit it's going to be it's going to be somewhat of a task for me to. Oh yeah, Tomb of Horrors is a classic.
Yes, it's Tomb
But
Fourth.
it's going to be somewhat of a task for me to try to um, de-standardize, if you will, my content to be more system agnostic. Jason, I know you're probably on the other end of the spectrum. Everything you create can be used in any capacity.
Yeah, I don't really include much mechanics or reference to any of the D&D material. It's usually almost always incredibly agnostic to be used in any genre, theme, or perspective. It's also written to be very much a cheat sheet, so that if you're in a hurry and you're running a sci-fi or you're running a medieval or a high magic or low magic game,
Yes.
and you just need a city to pull off the shelf, you pull off. The NPCs don't have attributes; they have backgrounds and personalities.
That's,
You know,
they have
and-
unique characteristics. Things. of
yeah,
that.
keep it as vanilla as I can is my
Right.
preference. When I
So
write.
you're at one end of the spectrum, and I'm at the other currently. So Brian, where do you fall in
I'm in
that?
the
How
middle.
much of your? That's what I figured.
I'm in the middle, but leaning towards the TTRPG Academy side, because as of lately, what brings me joy in sharing my content. Now, this is where I don't see myself as a content creator. I see myself as someone who's just sharing my knowledge and sharing the things that I already use. So, for example, I come out with tables. I write tables. They basically are for the dungeon master, game master to plug and play into their world. Right? There's cities. This month's theme was ocean themed. So there's coastal cities that you can use. You can drop that in any TTRPG, D&D, Pathfinder, Numenera. You can drop it in anything. And my goal with that was to say, I want to save the game master time, because D&D 5th edition specifically, with their rule sets, it's harder to prep. You have to take a little bit more time to prep things, whether you're following the 3-2-1 rule or whatever you're doing, you have to prep a lot more. So in my case, I like for something to be just plug and play, so that basically I can use it for whatever. And I know, Jason, we were talking about this a while ago, because I'm in the tech space,
right?
And code. I want to be able to use code and have a dev mimic it, so that they can that way we can test it, make sure everything works, but also we can save time, because the more time that we get to spend on other things, the better. So same thing with my D&D prep, and really just my DM prep, and the content that I share is to provide that solution.
I was just waiting for somebody to say that. Of course. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I deal with that at my day job, which I won't go into too much detail because I'm kind of I'm in the more security side of things. So ChatGPT is a fun thing, but hey, you know what?
I'm going to use it for the rest of this episode. Hang on.
Yeah. You know what? No, and that's the thing. So Shunjin, totally use it for Python and Apex. I know you can do a lot of cool things with it, but dungeon masters are using that. Game masters are using it. All that is just a tool in your DM tool belt.
Yep.
The whole AI DMs and GMs that they're coming out with is gonna most likely tank from a culture perspective here, because we want an in-person. What's going to happen when you ask the AI GM, hey, can I yeet this gnome into the wizard's tower like one of my players asked me?
Ew, into the wizard's tower. You deal 2d4 damage. The gnome is angry and bites your ankle.
That's what's gonna happen.
The gnome is angry.
Oh, you're using your Siri voice. That's awesome.
That's pretty good, Sharon.
I
Drop
thought it was my
X.
smartphone at first.
Drop X. Move
Well,
forward.
and contextually, what it reminds me of is when the very first like adventure-based games came out on computers.
Zork.
and
I said drop
Zork,
X.
you
move
know,
north.
it's like
yeah.
everybody thought for sure that was going to change the world of, and it didn't. You know, it created a little speed bump, you know, and people experimented with different ways to yes, from one of our games. Everybody took some time to experience what these adventure word games were, but we came right back to the table. We came right back to pizza, Jolt Cola, and rolling dice and playing games for
Hell, we still do
14
that.
hours.
We
you know.
still do that. I mean, listen,
Well, diet soda, cauliflower pizza, and you know, our bottle of Geritol supplement. Yeah,
And
you know,
see, like
free
Subtle
nachos
change
and a giant bowl of weed.
we've leveled up our snacks, right? I mean, as a kid, maybe pizza, stuff like that. Now we're eating. Oh, is this gluten free? Yes, it's gluten free. Oh, is it? Yeah. So maybe things have increased, but we're still back at the table.
yeah.
It's just like playing online is fantastic, but there's going to be room for both, no matter what your preference is.
I agree. I mean, and to a certain degree, the Dungeon Master AI seems strange to me because they already have DDO. So it's like you have DDO and this amazing community that plays a pretty fun MMO from their perspective, and that's how they like to have their experience. Then you have the online remote community playing, and then you have the live at a table playing. There's so much more variety that already exists. It's just it
Torch
seems
makes a good.
strange path.
Did you pop that up? So that's a good point. You know, I have a real problem with the AI shit.
Yep.
Okay, as a creator, it's going to take me a while, and it's not just me being old, maybe.
What?
But I just think that I think.
What'd you say,
I think it is. It can.
What'd you say, Kevin?
What is that with the AI and the jet?
Wait till you infants are done. No, I think it can be a tremendous crutch, but I think Torch makes a good point. It is a tool, just like a digital drawing slate or Procreate, and an iPad is a tool for an artist, and the like. I think it definitely has its purpose, but I do think that there is a limit, and I think a D&D game run by an AI is fucking ridiculous. And that's what what's his face wants to turn D&D into. So without getting on a soapbox, I will just say that it is a tool, but I think it can be abused.
I actually use it for a very specific purpose. I don't like to sit down and randomly bang out thoughts in my head. What I like to be able to do is use the chat bot to organize my thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have it spill my thoughts back out in an organized fashion.
Yeah.
And then I can take the pieces that then inspire me to write the stuff I couldn't get to, because I'm not that kind of writer. There are some writers who can sit down with a tablet and a pencil and write furiously for an hour and just have a ton of information available for their brain.
Yep.
I can't do that.
I'm
I
like
know
a
it's
bloodhound.
up there.
I
I just got to get to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it sounds more like a patch fix than something to actually rely on, because I don't think a campaign would be that functional if you relied heavily on the AI.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
you're right.
do you think we would get any of the depth of play that we see on Critical Role, or even Sharon with
Well,
your
I
mirror
mean, you
character?
got to get to the holodeck somehow. It's a good starting point. We'll
True.
get there.
Okay.
In 200 years,
When
you know.
I'll tell you what, I will be ready for an AI DM when
The
an
Hollow
AI.
Mercer.
I'll be ready for an AI DM when the AI can actually turn on my living room lights without me having to tell it 4 fucking times what I want it to do.
Matt Mercer is like watching this in his living room, like, they're gonna put me in the click.
No! No!
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Being
with him when
uploaded
he-
as we speak.
Yeah, we'll talk about it with Matt when he's on the show next week. As I said.
No, but the thing is, you're right though. Like this is simply a tool to be used by the GMs out there. Like for me, I've used chat. I have tested Chat GPT. And I've asked. Yeah, you did miss.
You
Oh
could
well,
watch
you know,
You
yeah,
could
but
watch it on
the
video.
bearded nerd's going to get a chance for the next topic once Barry's ready for it. But
Oh,
yeah,
oof. Ooh, what's going on? Oof. What's the next topic?
well,
The first rant.
So with the uproar that's going on with WotC and the OGL, what alternate TTRPGs would you recommend to GMs and experienced players?
Oh, GL. Ah! No, I'm kidding.
Table flip.
indestructible.
And furthermore, fucking Watsy.
Here's the rant we've been waiting for.
It just like goes into like that screen technical difficulties.
I feel like I need to get like an overlay for like coming rant.
Or like from Kill Bill, that like siren that they make.
Exactly.
Yes. No, that'd be
That'll
perfect.
be great. That'll be my legacy, the screaming idiot from the internet.
I mean, honestly, I just actually, yeah, Torch. That is a very good point. It isn't technically AI. It is just really streamlined. Anyway, sorry, the techie in me came out. I'd say Pathfinder is a really good second to 5th edition, because if you know 5th edition, you know about 70-80% of Pathfinder.
Yeah.
There are more complexities to it. The adventuring system is a little bit more complex. The rules are more like a flow chart. So if your player does this, there's probably a rule for it. There's more, for example, crafting magic items. There are rules for crafting in the core rule books. We actually did a count. There are 644 pages in the core rule book for Pathfinder, and that's the same number count as the DMG, the PHB, and the Monster Manual for D&D. So it's literally the
What?
same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The exact same count?
Yep.
Wow.
It's actually one of the reasons why Pathfinder, I couldn't get my teeth into it.
That's
My IT background has me in a very digital headspace.
Yeah.
I like the flow and ease of use of digital product and the way I can manipulate it to organize my thoughts and organize my gameplay and get into a headspace.
Now-
you also hate rules.
That's
Now,
true.
Well, but
I'm very eager for Critical Role's narrative style to come out, because that's pretty much what I play now, is a narrative style. So
Paizo actually released. They have their own version of D&D Beyond, which is going to be. They're like releasing a lot of their stuff for free.
yeah, I saw that.
I mean, what I like about Paizo, and it's just more company aspect of it. I do like the fact that they have built-in rules that I can choose to use or not. But Paizo has said repeatedly, if you don't want these rules, don't play them, don't use them. I don't care.
Right.
Do
Just
whatever.
optional.
Yeah, it's optional. I'm very interested to see what Critical Role is going to do. I do believe their narrative system is going to be, again, kind of up my alley as well. However, I did hear someone the other day on social media basically say that Critical Role is just a mouthpiece for WotC, and I was like, "Ooh, let me."
Okay.
I went.
No.
I was like, "Oh." Without even diving deep into the comments, I looked at it and was like, I'm just gonna scroll past this. Which again, the individual basically said that because they didn't release anything and because of how everything has been played out, they feel that they essentially have a deal with WotC where they're just going to be kind of neutral and everything. Which again, respect their opinion.
Yeah, it's called an NDA.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I'm like,
No, duh, asshole.
well, and
But
very much so.
It's like,
I just, again, this is where, like, don't get me wrong, I was upset at the OGL fiasco, but then, and it was more being upset of the fact that, wow, like I can't believe y'all would do this. Meanwhile, I'm still writing my stuff. I still keep going because I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Pardon the language, but I really don't care because all the things I produce are just system agnostic. If you want to drop it in Pathfinder, do it. Numenera, do it. Morkborg, do it. I don't care. Do whatever you want.
And that's interesting because, like I said, I when that whole fiasco was going on, I mean, it seems to have died down a little bit, but I thought that exact thing, Jason, when you and I were talking about it, I'm like, oh, well, Jason's perfectly set up for this. He doesn't give a shit. I gotta, am I gonna continue to do D&D based content, or do I need to completely do a 180 and yada yada yada? And I've actually thought, for me personally, I may kind of do both, where I do content where certain aspects do have statistics or characteristics or whatnot, but it's almost like, here's the heavy version of this, for instance, NPC, and here's the light version. The heavy version is D&D and has all the statistics, and here's the light version, which, Jason, to your point, is like, here's the background of this NPC and whatnot.
Well, I have a question for Bearded, and I'm hoping Cher can give some insight on this, because she is a newer player. She's in one of my campaigns. I'm her first campaign she's officially been in. We've been going for almost 2 years.
I'm traumatized.
And it does fly. It's incredible. And the people that you meet. The one thing I lose aspect of as a generational player from the standpoint of enjoying the game, I don't know what it's like to be a newbie anymore. And I wonder sometimes when I'm in my own headspace, there was a really good piece done on DM Lair, I think, the other day, where he talked about the reason why WotC is probably auto-generating the DM principle is the ratio of player to DM is so out of whack to the world of the game. Unconscious is not dying. I'm tired of this argument.
Only teetering on death.
You're only mostly dead. No.
It's I have lost the ability, and that's why I enjoy my newer players so much, is I've truly lost the ability to get into the headspace of being a neophyte newbie, trying to understand how to be a DM, trying to understand what does it take to be a DM, regardless of the system that you're playing. And I think I take that for granted sometimes, and I forget that what comes to me very naturally is still skills that others are trying to learn. And when they see this kind of infighting family fiasco, it doesn't help. It doesn't. That to me was the greater damage. And I would say shame on the community for allowing it to age for 20 years. And then shame on, the corporate greed mentality that was going on. Everybody's complicit to a certain degree.
Yeah, and let me actually interject really quick, because you brought something up. It was corporate greed.
Yeah.
All the comments, because I'm a big observer. I do talk often and a lot, but it's because also I observe in the equal amount. And I noticed a lot of people were saying, "Oh, capitalism."
It's not capitalism.
and exactly that's what, whether it's triggering or whatever the term you want to say. First and foremost, capitalism is what brought D&D and Pathfinder and Numenera and all these TTRPGs. This is why Critical Role's around, is because capitalism has allowed it to fester in the free market. But in reality, what this is yes, it's corporate greed. It's out of touch executives who, instead of saying, hey, let's increase our profits by 1% to 5% each year, that's fine. And guess what? We're going to be faithful to our customer base. We're going to give them badass miniatures like the Tarask. That's awesome, but not at the freaking price point that it's at.
Oh man.
I just saw, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I just saw the Githyanki and the Efreet.
No, we're not.
And I was like, oh, I gotta buy these. And then I looked at the price and I'm like, fuck you.
Well, and that's the thing. I remember, and I know, there's a quote, there's a supply chain issue in the Okay, whatever. But the thing is that even with the economy the way it is, why am I going to spend $70 on the new Critical Role miniatures? It doesn't make sense. Now, again,
Put that comment up. Put that comment up.
like the thing is that for me,
This is
Yes.
make more money or get the fuck out.
well, and that's the thing too. Like there is pressure, I understand, but the biggest thing is you have self-inflicted this because I'm sorry, Hasbro needs Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast really doesn't need Hasbro anymore. They have self-sustained enough where they can turn their profit and they're fine. You know what they did with the Magic community is horrible. That 30 year $1,000 for 4 packs of cards that are not even proxies. They are just reprints. They're fake cards. 60 of them.
And you're not even allowed to use them in tourney. You can't use them in anything. They're just an
So you're just throwing
anniversary
your money.
set. Just an anniversary set.
It is an anniversary set, and the thing is that this is what's happening.
It's
They're printing-
$1,000 for
Yeah.
60
Jeez
fucking
Louise.
cards.
No, it's $1,000 for 4 packs.
For 4 packs.
Yeah, exactly.
Blind packs. Blind packs.
Yes,
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
crazy.
God.
and this is the thing. What's going to happen? So
Yeah, exactly.
we've talked about.
That's really good.
So we talked about this last.
Fucking D&D is fucking Pandora, and they're gonna dig
Well,
the shit out of it.
But this is
So,
what's going to happen, and this is what we talked about. We spoke about last time when they were buying up certain things, and actually, I think it was the last episode I was on when they bought up D&D Beyond.
Yes.
I said specifically they're doing exactly what they did before 4th edition. They're buying up all these things, and they're going to release 4th edition. And guess what? This one D&D thing is not. It's not backwards compatible. It's 6th edition, right?
Yeah.
They're coming out with 6th edition, but they don't want to say it because it's going to be a bad brand recognition. Me personally, and I don't want to. I'm gonna end the tangent on this note.
We love rants on this show. So
Okay.
Oh, this is
And
on par with the
And
show.
I'm gonna keep
I don't
going.
want to be the
No.
only angry Brian on Lawfully Chaos.
No, now you have 2 angry Bryans. This is what I would have done if I was like in the position like of the WotC kind of Hasbro, of that executive leader. I would have invited all my whales, my sharks, and then like my piranhas, right? I would have invited them, paid, let's say Critical Role, MCDM Productions, those folk, Kobold Press,
Yeah.
flown them out, paid for their stay, paid for their dinner, wine and dine. Jason, you know where I'm heading to.
Yeah.
Let's I'm going to say, hey, you're going to sign this NDA. We're going to work together as partners. I'm going to wine and dine you. And I'm going to say, this is what's coming out, but I want your partnership on this. And I would do the same thing for my sharks, right? Your web DMs, those folks who are making huge, your dungeon dudes.
Yeah.
And actually, I would then even include in the sharks and in the piranhas all your YouTubers. So your NEDs. Again, Matt Colville already stated, your dungeon dudes,
Right.
all those people who are essentially influencers.
Well,
And AI ranting about AI rants.
Yeah.
Well, and I think D&D Shorts by far did the best job.
He did.
Of,
And that's
culminating that.
And that's where I would have, again, looked at my influencer marketing. I would have looked at, even guys like Kevin from Dice Cream Sandwich. He's a great guy. Like he's a good person, but I would have contacted them. I would have contacted D&D Shorts and said, hey, again, your whales, you're gonna do a 3-4 day whatever and have those long-term conversations.
Right.
Kobold Press, this is our 6th edition spell list. Here's a preview of it so that you can start making stuff, and then have a partnership so that everyone, when the hammer drops, when the hammer drops, what you do is you have everyone looking at the dust, aka the consumer, and then you say, "Oh, Kobold Press is for it, MCDM. Well, I guess if they're for it, sure, why not? Let's go for it. That's how you do it. You don't boil. You don't. You don't boil a frog by put them in boiling water. You put them in cold water and you let the heat rise. That's what I would have done. But again, no one asked. I didn't get a call from Wizards for consultation. So whatever, man.
How
I
could
did. I
they?
told them
Well-
I was busy.
Well,
No.
I've said this before, and I've always felt it's very important for the distinction of the world. The WotC situation is not unique from a corporate perspective.
No, it's not.
If you look at the corporate landscape, they don't practice capitalism; they practice greed.
Yes.
And if you look at the hiring practices that WotC went through by hiring a former Amazon, Microsoft person, to come and run WotC, you knew that she was going to be arriving with a formula.
Yeah.
That formula is a formula of corporate greed that she would understand and put into practice and put into principle. I think what the WotC thing teaches us is that if you do have a brand-based community, watch out. It can still happen. You could still be brought down to a level of recognition where now they've actually given away the name Beholder, Mind Flayer. The SRD has been bloated by 200 pages. They basically gave it all away because they poorly planned. It's now all out there with the exception of a couple things based on their digital inspiration. But
Well, the impetus is the corporate greed. Okay, this is under monetized as they were told.
yeah,
Their real problem is that they are. I think they are more out of touch their community and what their product is and what drives their product than I think anybody else in history. If I can.
yeah, it goes back to the tone deaf, the whole
Yeah.
tone deaf thing.
Completely, just utterly and completely.
Well, and the thing is that I remember when I saw that they were hiring that CEO, she came from a Microsoft, from an Xbox background.
And Amazon.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, huh, she spearheaded a lot of the projects, which again, that's awesome. That's a great skill set, but that's not a skill set that we needed for D&D. We needed someone,
No.
For example, I think one of the reasons Critical Role is such a successful business, it's not because of Matt Mercer. It's because of Marisha and Travis as the business heads of the organization. Matt Mercer is the brain, but Marisha and Travis are like the heart and the lungs, very vital to the company from a leadership perspective, because not only do they know the community, they also know how to run a business. So that's kind of where I feel like Hasbro, they don't know. They're still stuck trying to sell Monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell wants to play Monopoly nowadays?
And I think the last time they were involved with the community was 20 years ago when they wrote the initial OGL and then just walked away.
Yeah.
That should have been this persistent, recurring conversation year after year after year after year after year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think WotC would have remained independent. I think they would have been more community driven. I think they would have been more realized about the community, because what Critical Role did is they did the Kickstarter. They broke the record, and they built the idea of community foundation and proved that if your community is willing to do it, they're going to do it for you. They're going to do it for you every time.
Go back to Shunjin's last, no, one above that. So look at that. Free fall since late 2019. In my opinion, one of the best things that ever happened to this game was COVID.
Mhm.
Because I would not know any of you people if we were not all forced into remote play. So that is also extremely telling that they completely missed the boat on the past 4 years of what's been going on in the community, as opposed to what's been going on in their in their own house.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Bearded's camera is in rebellion.
It is. It is.
Right. As long as you're here in spirit.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Here,
Well, like I said, to me that is telling, because in the past 40 years, I think that is the most revolutionary thing that has happened in this game. Is all of the sudden it has completely changed for the better and become and evolved, become this new thing. And they, as far as they are concerned, nothing.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, it's interesting. I find,
Yeah, Gary's right. I mean, we got back together after 30 years of not playing because of remote play.
Yeah.
well, and Torch is like, yeah, COVID is what got her playing again.
Exactly.
And it definitely, remote play definitely introduced a lot of starving players to a lot of remote GMs. And I think that is its main niche that it really introduced to everyone. How you build and do your remote toolbox, which I know that's one of your points on here, Bear. How do you decide on your tools that you're using for your remote play?
That's a good question. Basically, I'm pretty simple. Like, I know that there's Roll20 and all that shit, and they're great. It's awesome.
Garbage.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what D&D is.
Well, it's more like, you know what? I'm not going to knock people who use it. If they want to use it, great.
Hey, I'm jealous of people that know how to use it as comfortably as they do. It's very awkward for me. So
What's that, Roll20?
Yeah.
We use it, and it's a love-hate relationship. I'll just leave it at that.
I would honestly love to sit down with the folks from Roll20 and just have a tutorial, or like just have a tutorial video. But really what I do from an online perspective, I make maps through Incarnate. And then
So hold on, if I may interrupt, Jeff, just for you, so apparently I'm now known for my rants. So if any of you are familiar with CNBC, I'm going to start a Jim Cramer style D&D rant on this show, where I take like my son's foam Mjolnir and start smashing minis and shit.
yes. Bye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, like I for me, I honestly use Zoom. I share my screen with the map, and I'm good to go.
You are Kramer.
I like it. I like it.
Get off of there, Jason. Brian, continue.
No, you're you're good. It's more of
I just couldn't help it.
I literally use Zoom, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
So do you feel like you're more theater of the mind for the most part?
if I'm playing if I'm playing in person, the only reason I bring up minis is for combat or like a situational awareness thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times where I don't even have them roll dice. We just narrate, we just talk, we tell a story. The only time I have players roll dice is when a decision needs to be made that cannot be made in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in my world, there are players who are merchants, and if you want a specific item from this merchant, you set up a private channel or a private message on Discord, and you add me as so I can see.
Yeah.
And you role play it.
That's pretty cool.
You want
That
this
is
to
cool.
be done? Here you go. Do it.
Yeah.
There's no need for there's just no need to make it complicated. And then obviously, like, I'm probably gonna start using Discord more, because I do want the community to be involved. Again, even my world building, my playing, everything, I want the community to be involved.
Yeah.
And if it's in person, obviously it's a little bit different, but any virtual game is probably going to just be on Discord for the community to hang out, share, just tell a story. If I ever decide to stream a game, that might just be more of a hobby and more just for the fun, because my life's already busy with one baby, and actually this will be the first time I'll say it live, but second baby's on the way.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, if you're that eager, I could sell you one of my 5.
That's fantastic news, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you. No,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I
I'm so
appreciate
happy
it.
for you.
September 12th is the due date. So
Oh my gosh.
we are.
Yeah, Jeff's got sick, so he's between you and Jason, him and Jason.
Well, it's funny because our daughter is walking already and all this stuff, and she's been walking to like all my Pathfinder and D&D books, and I'm like, yes, child,
Ah,
yes.
do
it's
it.
the fantasy genes
done.
coming out.
I know. My son comes walking out of my studio with a lead classic mini in his mouth, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so proud of you.
Perfect. Nothing wrong with that.
Big old grenadier stamp on the bottom of the base.
Uh-huh.
It just kind of tastes like the paint on the walls.
All of a sudden, the next day, your child is like hulked out. What's wrong? What happened?
Well, that's
I know.
fantastic. That's fantastic.
No, it's great, and the thing is, it's like, we were talking about world building and kind of like some of the things, like regarding styles and also like and we're mentioning a little bit of the online stuff, but really like influence. I know that kind of stuck out to me, and my daughter's influenced me because now Jason, how you're talking about like becoming a new player and having that experience.
Yeah.
It's like being a parent. I'm experiencing what I went through, but as a kid, but what she's going through now, I'm experiencing again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel when I bring new players. Hence the reason I want the open, text-based chat, because y'all, I don't know about you, but I remember going on, these forums and doing that and experiencing that.
Oh yeah, I remember getting on my TRS-80 and going out to those Rebel forums and talk about all the first edition stuff, and you get these like annotated collapsing conversations going, and it was like a bad game of telephone. It was like
Yeah.
by the time you got to that like 85th post, people are like, what were we talking about again?
Yep. But you know what? Like there's a nostalgia to that. For me, like there will always be a nostalgia and a beautiful feeling of cracking open a book, a physical book, even though I do like the digital. I do, talk whatever you want to talk about. Like D&D Beyond as a piece of technology is very helpful.
Yeah.
But there's something classic about opening up that book, having your dice out, doing all that. I mean, I still, for the most part, actually, I have one of my journals here. I have to move my daughter's play phone off my journal. What
is her play phone? iPhone 12?
No. We have gone at,
okay.
I'm making sure. No, these are one of my journals, one of my world building journals.
Yeah.
Filled with stuff.
Paper.
Yeah. Because I don't have it on me, but I like, my Pilot 0.5 or 0.7, fine point pen that I like to write with. And I drink a tall glass of cold brew and just start writing. But I need, Jason, like we were talking about, I need something to go off of. So chat GPT, a book, whatever, that source of inspiration.
So I want to bring this out in honor of your earlier reference. I've been gifted a very marvelous opportunity to curate somebody's 35-year, almost 40-year collection. And I've been gradually curating it, getting it organized. And this was sitting there.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is going to blow your mind, Brian.
I have that.
The maps... This has been used one time.
Oh my God.
One time. And to your point about breaking open a book.
We are now at our show and tell section.
Yeah. but that really kind of like reminded me that when I'm sitting here and I'm stuck on the digital and I'm stuck with my previous notes, and I'll pull this out. I'll pull this out and I'll start reading and say to myself, there is so much in these books that we don't talk about anymore.
Yep.
That This is the bigger boat that WotC has missed. This is the bigger boat. They have 50 generational years of content that could easily be done a better service than what they did with Spelljammer.
Yes.
I took this out last time, but you didn't see it, Brian. But I got this for my birthday from a dear friend of mine. This is the first edition DM's Guide. And the funny thing is, I never had the DM's Guide as a kid.
We were too poor growing up to afford it. When no, that wasn't a thing. But I'll tell you this though.
I'm hugging my wife.
I'm bringing out the hammer. There you go.
Okay,
right there.
yeah.
There's the hammer.
Yeah, I bring this book because this is the opportunity that they're missing.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we have a book that can quite literally, they have like the witch and the wizard and curses of a witch. Like, okay, let's be honest. That artwork is pretty legit.
Oh, that's so cool.
But it's, again, we're missing out on opportunity. I think they're missing out on opportunities. But D&D homebrewers, right, third-party content creators, are the ones who love the game, love the nostalgia, and we're going to share it.
Yeah.
Hence the reason the OGL was so painful, because it was like you were taking our ability to create and share. It's like basically, it's like telling Beethoven, yeah, you can write music and compose, but guess what? You're not going to compose on this instrument.
Right. It's very true.
So
very true.
Well, again, it just full circle back to being completely out of touch and tone deaf.
They are.
And I mean, they could have. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and I'm not going to go on another rant. But no, I mean to their own. Rant cam, I like it. You coined it.
In the words
to their own detriment.
Yeah.
They have missed the boat. They could have gone about this properly and made bank and made everybody happy. And yeah, that may be naive, but I fully believe that they could have done that with.
And I will say my final say on this: anything that jeopardizes the opportunity for players is a huge miss. I am nothing without my players. I'm nothing without my players.
And that is my biggest world building core influence, my players.
Yeah.
It doesn't, if they want to play D&D, fine. If they want to play Pathfinder, cool, whatever. But my point is this: when I build a world, so right now, like I had the Goliaths fleshed out, but I have a new player. She's playing a Goliath. And before this one D&D stuff was coming out, I already had, fire Goliaths, all that, the sub stuff. But more importantly, like, this is how I world build, and I have my computer here to kind of showcase. With the Goliaths, she wants to be a Goliath, so I'm going to kind of dive deeper. And I always give my players this. You can have the option that is already written, right? So you can find your basics, your overview, their entertainment, how do they feel entertained, law and military, their food, drink, clothing, festivals, literature, culture, customs, religion, right? All that. Or guess what? Here's the template. You fill it out. Because the player is also a world builder. You are building the world from the perspective of your character. I may provide the macro, you're providing the micro, and then we meet together, and that's where the story comes into play. Like, I have my in-person group. They just in game, they have been really together for about a year to 2 years, and technically now this is the third year in game. We've been together as a gaming group for 2 years. So I bring that up because a lot of them, they have grown and matured as characters to the point where now they have created things in my world that I never took for account and took into that, and they're managing things. And I give them that opportunity because they're as much world builders as I am. I just, I build the foundation, they build upon it. Some players, now mind you, we've all probably been here, and I know Sharon, you were talking about earlier where like the campaign that you're in with Jason was really one of the big first ones where, from a long-term perspective, when you come into something fresh and new, and please, Sharon, tell me if I'm just talking shit. You come in with new ideas. Oh, I like this, but I think this would be even cooler. And you implement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I think it's so exciting to play D&D or just any... Well, I'm not sure if there's more creativity involved, like for Unearthed Arcana for like different TTRPGs, like to create your own magic items.
It depends. It depends on the system. Some companies, like, for example, Morkborg, excuse me, they don't care. They're like, here you go, do whatever. Paizo, I mean, yeah, that.
So
I've never even
Sharon,
heard of that.
Barry's given herself a very disservice here. Her investment in Mira has been iconic. She has done things with that character that I wouldn't have guessed would have happened. And the way she built custom little gifts for the other players in the game that were given stats and magical awareness to be a part of the game. She had no background in any of that at the very beginning. She was very much new. And if you are fortunate to watch where she started and where she's at now, once again, to your point about their contribution as builders, I'm beyond inspired by that. The level of creativity that both Barry and Frigette, two very brand new players, like Frigette was even more nervous about playing than Barry was. And to see what those two have created over the course of 2 years, if they survive, I will ask if they'll let me use them as NPCs. I'll be honest, all 5 of them are worth being NPCs. And Torch, you got a backstory culmination coming up, so you.
Well, Jason, it's really interesting that you bring that up, because if you've ever heard of the group online or the game D&D, we've spoken about them before.
Yeah,
they've been playing for 40 years. I think they're playing 2nd edition or something like that.
I think they're playing 2nd. I think you're right. Yeah.
And like when a character dies in that world, they're done.
Yeah.
But he also has epic levels, and like he has people go level 23, 24, 25.
Yeah.
Really?
He has homebrewed an entire system to go beyond that. And this is my thing. Why not? Why can't you, like, I have the players right now, each player in my in-person group has dedicated what I think, like, I'll be honest with you, Victoria, and I'm using their character names. Victoria, she's more narrative. She's a new player, or the player's newer, and never played D&D before. So, like, when it comes to roles and things like that, like, it's like, okay, I use this, I use that. But her mind, from an imagination perspective, is beyond great. Tomorrow we have our in-person session. It's going to be legit. Because
that's exciting.
Well, funny enough, there's a mysterious cloaked figure that has entered into her grove as a druid. So I don't know if any of my players are actually on the stream watching, so I don't want to say anything. I'll say it offline. But then there's players. One of the characters, Laya, she's a dungeon master as well, and she is so invested in this character to the point where she manages and runs the keep that they were awarded because they helped save the capital. So because of that, within that year span, like, she's been able to, she runs the keep, manages the keep. She does all these things from, like, a management perspective. It takes the load off my back as a dungeon master, but as a world builder, hey, DM, can I add this? Can I have this type of smith? work with
That's
this artificer, and then work with this wizard to enchant a magic weapon that can do this. Go for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that gets them so involved in the campaign too. It makes it more tangible for the players. That's what's really exciting. That's what I love about TTRPGs is that like you get to be involved in the story and actually feel a part of it. That's
The-
so cool.
And the reason I did that is because my OG players 7 years ago, when we first started playing in this new campaign, in this new group, I had the golden era and then I had the OG. The golden era was when we were kids and we were creating the world and it was awesome. But the OGs were the ones that we would meet every week. We would have a food adventure and then our D&D adventure.
That's fun.
Oh, it was great because we'd go to we're actually on Google because we would go to this taco truck so much that we were on the reviews for it. And at the time you could buy, it was legitimately, actually it was probably illegitimate because it was cash only. But we would, I had to compete against World of Warcraft because they played video games.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that I had player buy-in immediately. So, and that's another thing when you're world building, player buy-in. Is your world, it doesn't have to be in-depth. Is it do you tell your world or do you portray your world to be interesting enough to have a player buy-in? If not, and if you're not invested in your world, if you aren't passionate about your world, where you're if you're not living it, if you're not dreaming it, if you're not, now people may say this, and I'm going to be very controversial. There's the level of passion. Oh, I love, and everyone's going to say, follow your passion, do it. And then there's obsessive. You can ask my wife, I'm always writing something down. Oh, I like this. When I view a movie, I look at it from a storytelling perspective. I get to see the narrative and I say, I know where it's going to go. I know where it's going to end up because I can tell the narrative plot points. And then my wife's like, you just ruined the freaking movie for me.
Well, there goes the Hobbit.
Well, it's I've had to shut my mouth and be like, I know this is going to happen. So that's becoming obsessive over. But again, it's a craft. When you consider this a craft, whether you're a professional or a casual DM, become obsessed. And if you're going to become obsessed, just know this shit does not stop until you say it stops. That's my biggest thing as a world builder. If you don't the normal trajectory of world building is becoming obsessed with your world. And if you're not obsessed with your world, good luck.
Well, and on that note, I've had to find ways to challenge myself.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting journey with how things have shifted for me over the course of the last 5 and 10 years. One thing was we built a table for Monday nights that we don't have levels and we don't have classes.
I like that.
So we play pure narrative, open world. If you want to learn it, use the world to learn it. So you have a Tabaxi who's good with a bow, casts some spells, and you have this really well-rounded blend of creativity that's purely from the narrative of the players. And now I'm exploring my world of Kalisha, which is humans are virtually non-existent. So it's all orcs and goblins and kobolds and bugbears, and it's the world of the humanoids and how from their point of view, humans are dangerous, evil, and they tend to destroy everything they touch.
So, and if someone wants to play a human, what is that implication as a human?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and I'm gonna go there. Dark Sun. Ooh,
I had a Dark Sun campaign that went for a little while. I love that game.
Some people who are new to D&D may say, what's Dark Sun? Dark Sun was pretty dark.
It was dark.
What is it?
Well,
that's going to be on our next episode.
Yeah, okay.
We'll save that.
It's a
No,
heavy
yeah.
You
one.
know, it's interesting. It's really interesting that both you bring that up, and Jason, that you brought that up, because I've actually started in my mind thinking, in this whole realm of moving away from the D&D core rules and being more agnostic. One game keeps popping back into my head, which is Middle Earth role playing. Okay,
Yes.
and they used a D100 system. I hope Jason pulls it out. They used a D100 system. And that was a game where, like Gandalf, you could be a magician. Yes. You could be a magician and you could still use a sword, right?
Right.
You may not be as good with the sword as somebody who devotes themselves to it.
Is he a powerful wizard or is he more like you?
Right, yeah, exactly. But I've started to think, and this is where you and I differ, Jason, because I love the narrative aspect, but I also like rules that make the game more interesting. Not necessarily rules that constrict and constrain, but rules that can add a certain amount of randomness and interest. And I've been thinking lately I've actually been thinking about creating a rule system since I'm so good at following through on all the things on my to-do list. I
Right.
figured I'd just add another small one to it. But I've been thinking that it would be really cool to recreate a D100 system that does not have classes, does not have levels, but is totally and entirely background and skill based. That you can, and the reason I would choose the D100 system is because it gives you a much greater numerical range.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, which to me opens up the interesting opportunity for the DM to award skill points or further somebody's skill expertise through role playing and through narrative. Okay, so you still have a base of what is my skill and this is what I roll, but because you now, instead of you go from 20 to 100, there's more places to put skills into. So if I want to cast spells and use a sword and wear armor and pick locks, I'm not going to be great at any of them, but I can do it. And if it enhances my narrative, it's almost like a tree for the narrative. So wherein there are quote unquote more rules, where my head is going is actually utilizing those as just a base to actually facilitate more narrative type play.
For sure. I mean, it's like GURPS and some of these other role RPGs that are out there right now, because
yes, that's the name of a real game, Chair.
I know. It sounds funny every time.
It just sounds like like
Excuse me.
the doctor comes in.
You got GURPS.
GURPS. Like
I have
you got a cream for that?
I've got the complete set of rifts around
Rift?
here somewhere.
Oh my
Every
God,
book.
Rift. We gotta have a show where we just dig out all our old fucking games.
Although, on the narrative style, Callista picked this up for me. It is the Doctor Who RPG.
Nice.
So I've been starting to read that, and I once again I keep getting drawn back into the narrative style. I really love the narrative style. I like its flow.
I do really just like the crit and fumble tables from Merp. That was the main thing. But
Well, and that's the big thing. Like, I think that I will say, I've said this many a time. The story, the way you want to tell your story, you just have to find mechanics around it, right? The way you tell your story is going to be dependent upon you and your group. The mechanics are it's the caveat, the conduit rather, it's more the conduit of how you tell your story. For me, my homebrew world could go wherever. We just choose 5th edition to tell that story. We can choose Pathfinder, and we can just say, you know what, we're just going a very narrative style, and we're not going to even roll dice. Or we can, flip a coin. Heads, it happens. Tails, it doesn't.
What?
I go into convulsions when I hear no dice.
That's so interesting.
A great way to start kids out with TTRPGs to just get the basic concepts. Flip a coin.
Yeah.
Heads, they succeed. Tails, they don't succeed. What do you do? How do you go from there? So on and so forth. That's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's
it's
awesome.
you hit the goblin, flip a coin, succeed.
Aw, poor goblin.
I know, bonk.
See, now the way I would handle it is I'd get the kids together, I'd hire a goblin to come in, and the kids would literally have to beat the shit out of the goblin.
So
Or-
that's
A
actually
human
get the crap
pinata, which would
kicked out of
actually be a possibly another child dressed up like a goblin.
Yeah.
so what I'm gonna do.
No.
I'll show you D&D.
No.
So for my daughter's when she turns 5, so 4 years from now, I'm planning to basically have a LARP. And then
Oh,
what's going to
awesome.
happen is that she's just going to beat the shit out of these kids that I will eventually probably be like, hey, listen, like, hey, this is your uncle. I gave him $50. Go ahead and beat the shit. Like he's
Dude,
like,
I'll fucking
or
fly to Florida. They could beat the crap out of me. I'd love that.
listen, I'm just saying. I'm going to call my brother and say, listen, I need you to dress up like Gandalf and just basically be like, I'm looking for someone to go on an adventure with.
Oh my
And that's
God.
it. Just repeat that. And then you're good to go.
I don't think I can be your Gandalf. I'm not tall enough. I can be your Gimli.
Yeah, no, James is getting jagged into this. You'll be someone. I don't know who, but you're going to be someone.
So somehow we did it. We burnt an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Sharon should wrap us tonight. We'll dispense with rollies.
Okay, no rollies.
Rollies.
Sharon gets she has been rolling pretty dice goblin.
Oh, no, I was going to say we should dispense with rollies and let Sharon wrap us.
Yeah, we're gonna let you wrap us up tonight,
Yeah.
Sharon.
All right.
But Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
That means you
as
get to roll
always.
too, Brian.
Awesome. I don't know what I'm doing rolling. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No,
Sharon,
she's
I was
making us roll. I knew
was
it.
giving you the roll, but
Chat, you can roll too.
okay.
All together.
All right.
We're rolling a d20.
Yes.
Oh, I'm out tonight. I got a 5.
Damn. 11.
I
got a 12.
9. I got a 9.
Oh, so it is Sharon. There you go.
That's kind of creepy, to be honest with you.
Jeff got 15. Jeff, roll us out.
All right, Jeff, go. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Lawfully Chaotic Special Edition with our friend here, Brian, the Bearded Nerd. Thank you for joining us. As always, you can find us here over on the Twitch and YouTube channels under Lawfully Chaotic and also on the TTRPG Academy channels as well. Well, Brian, where can we find you?
You can,
that Brian.
you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, all the social media. You can find me on YouTube as the Bearded Nerd TV. We will be working more on some YouTube videos that are coming out soon. I will say though, probably the best way, just check out our Instagram and click the link in that bio. I know it sounds cheesy, but we literally have everything there. Come join Discord, come hang out with us, come be part of the Battle Royale. Just saying. Let your dark side come out.
And don't forget about our TPK bear.
TPK
well,
beer.
And Brian, we're
One
you
Brian's
still need to
enough.
close-
He's the only Brian that matters tonight.
Wow.
Red Cam in
This is the first battle royale.
Instagram is the best place to find me. Play RPG. I'm sorry, RPG and Co. Shots fired. Don't shoot. I'm coming over. You could also Linktree. Also Play RPG and Co. And PlayRPGandCo.com. Brian, we do have a lot to talk about
Yes, we do.
Offline, so let's sync up early next
Oh.
week and put some evil plans into motion.
Brian, I told you can have a free month of only beards. It's fine. Oh, not that conversation. Oh, got it. Got it. All right.
And Jason, where can we find you?
You can find me over at the Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram Spaces But all of our stuff is over at the TTRPG Academy on Twitch. And you can find our new updated schedule will be there. We have games Monday coming on Tuesday. We have games Saturday and games on Sunday that we share with our Twitch audience. And they are as they are. They're not played in any other way than I hope that people are inspired to play.
Also, I just want to say really quick, Sharon, if it just in case, don't want it to be glossed over. Thank you, chat, once again.
Yes,
for
as
joining
always.
us. You guys are awesome. I feel like we have a little core group of regulars now every week, and it really, really means a lot to us, seriously. So thank you.
And pretty soon we get to welcome our new Dungeon Master, Brian, when he kicks off the new campaign every third Thursday of the month.
Oh,
That'll be
me?
lots of
Yes,
fun.
yes.
Yeah, that Brian.
Yes, you, Brian.
Yeah, you, Brian.
I'm like, what?
Get us out of here, Bear.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode. You can find me over on Instagram at BarryBot, and you could also catch me over on Saturdays on the Graying Lands campaign, where I play as a Druid Kalistar named Mayra. Catch us there at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time. Don't miss out. And as always, TPK, everyone. Tell a story, play a game, and
Be kind.
be kind. You gotta whisper the last part. Bye, everyone.
Use it more
Bye.
empathy.